Today we're looking at carpetbaggers and scalawags. Hello, welcome to the Daily Bellringer. Please don't forget to subscribe and take a look at the questions down in the description. Also, don't forget to check out dailybellringer.com for resources that go with many of the Bellringer videos. In the aftermath of the Civil War, the United States entered into a time period known as Reconstruction, as the nation attempted to rebuild itself after 4 years of bloody fighting. The Southern economy was left in ruins after the war, and with the passage of the 13th Amendment abolishing slavery, the cornerstone of much of their economy, the forced labor of enslaved people, was gone. Carpetbagger was the name white Southerners gave to Northerners that moved into the South after the war, motivated by economic opportunity or to make profit and gain control of land. Many times these Northerners carried cheaply made bags made from carpet. The term carpetbagger is actually a derogatory term, and by that I mean a name given or title given to someone that is meant to be disrespectful or express anger towards that person. White Southerners viewed carpetbaggers as basically corrupt, low-class businessmen there only to take advantage of the South's misfortune after the war was over. Although this might have been the case for some Northerners that came to the South, most were actually well-educated middle-class Northerners that came to the South in hopes of helping rebuild and create unity after the war. Many were former Union soldiers and were merchants or teachers, or were working for the Freedmen's Bureau attempting to ensure rights for former enslaved people. As the Civil War came to a close, the 13th Amendment was passed, abolishing slavery, and then soon after other amendments were added, extending more rights to former enslaved African Americans. These efforts were led by Republicans in Congress, many times referred to as the Radical Republicans. Former enslaved people who had just been given voting rights overwhelmingly voted for Republicans in elections, and many African American candidates were voted into various political offices, state legislatures, and into Congress. Southern state legislatures were soon controlled by the Republican Party. Carpetbaggers were almost exclusively supporters of the Republican Party and their reform efforts. To most white Southerners, supporting the Republican Party and their efforts to extend rights to African Americans and reform the South was a despicable act. Opposition to the Republican Party in the South by white Southerners was very intense. However, there were some white Southerners that supported the Republican Party and their efforts to change the South. These white Southerners were called scalawags by other whites in the South, another derogatory term. Many scalawags were Southerners that remained loyal to the Union throughout the Civil War, some even serving in the Union Army. Interestingly, despite agreeing with much of the reform efforts and extending rights to African Americans, most scalawags still held racist values and did not believe African Americans should be given any political control. Much of their motivation was to simply keep former Confederates from regaining power. To the majority of white Southerners, scalawags were viewed even worse than carpetbaggers, as they saw scalawags as being traitors to the Southern way of life and their racist ideology. Although scalawags were only thought to make up about 20% of the Southern white population, between the years of 1867 to 1869, many were able to win political offices along with many carpetbagger candidates, and for a very brief time, Southern state legislatures were controlled by African Americans and Republicans that were pushing forward reform efforts in the South. Unfortunately, many white Southerners that supported the Republican reform efforts eventually went over to what became known as the Democratic Redeemers, which were the Southern wing of the Democratic Party. These Democrats regained control of state legislatures and began to put back in place laws that discriminated against African Americans and integrated racist policies. Anger over carpetbaggers, scalawags, and reform efforts in the South, of course, led to the formation of racist organizations such as the Ku Klux Klan that attempted to stop reform efforts and not allow equal rights for African Americans. The KKK used intimidation, violence, and murder to attempt to stop reform efforts across the South. With the election of 1876 and new policies by President Rutherford B. Hayes, the Reconstruction period came to an end, but unfortunately, it left a legacy of discrimination and unfair treatment of African Americans across the South. So with that, hopefully you learned something, and thanks for watching.